Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this live stream. My name is Chase Oliver, and I am the Libertarian candidate for governor in Georgia in 2026. But I've also been a Libertarian candidate for president in the past and an anti-war, pro-liberty activist for over 20 years. So thanks for joining me on the live stream here. We have lots to talk about this week. And first and foremost, we need you to support the Libertarian Party of Georgia. Now, I was going to come on this stream to ask you to support the Libertarian Party of Georgia to donate for filing fees. We're going to have my campaign's website and bank account and everything up and running soon. But in the meantime, we did need to kind of go ahead and get these donations in. And so we've been asked that you donate directly to the Libertarian Party so we can fund the full 100% of the ballot access here. And so with that, I do ask you to go ahead and go to lpgeorgia.com/donate. Well, we've already raised the filing fees for me. I'll be filing on Wednesday afternoon to run for governor of Georgia. And then we'll also be working towards our ballot access petitioning. Now, I will still ask you to go to lpgeorgia.com/donate and still put Chase sent me here or, Chase filing or whatever you want to put in the comments. Just let them know that I sent you there. Here's the reason why. Now that we've reached what I need for my race, I asked the LP Georgia team that anything above that I raise can go towards the filing fees for my great colleague Andrew Underwood, who wants to run in the 14th district for Congress. And then after that, to help fund our ballot access effort so we can go ahead and get the petitioning we needed to really succeed. So I'm going to urge each and every one of you who is watching this, who's checking this out, to go to lpgeorgia.com/donate. Please do that. The reason being, if you can do that, you're going to help us be in a great position towards our ballot access drive, which we need to do to get our candidates on the ballot, both statewide and as well as in the 14th district to run for the permanent seat for what was Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. Andrew is running in the special election right now, but of course that race is a bit of a sprint. It's only a few weeks. It's actually almost here, but we do want Andrew to be able to qualify to run that race throughout the rest of the year so we can get more time to really fully flesh out the liberty message in the 14th district. And we want to have a full slate of statewide candidates here in Georgia. So go to lpgeorgia.com/donate. You can put Chase filing fees, Chase ballot access, whatever you want to put in the comments. Just make sure you know that I send them there. So that way they know that those can go towards, well, I have what I need for ballot access or to qualify, but we have a couple of other candidates who are still a little bit short that we can help raise for. And then after that, help raise for the ballot access drives that we're going to need to be putting forward as a party. So I urge you to get out there, let them know Chase sent you in the comments when you do donate. And yeah, that's going to be my first initial sales pitch. I'll be making that pitch again before the end of this live stream. Don't you worry about that. But yeah, I'm running for governor. We need your help. The Libertarian Party needs your help. And I urge you to join the party. And this is a great way to do it, to donate some money towards these causes. And that will help you help the party. So thank you very much in advance for anybody who does donate. Now, the next thing I do want to talk about is, we'll kind of do this in order here. The State of the Union address happened last week. I thought, maybe I should talk about it this week. And that nothing else in the news was going to come up between now and then. Of course, I was wrong, and we'll talk about probably the bigger story in just a few minutes. But I did want to go back and kind of discuss and dissect the State of the Union last week. First off, that meeting can be an email, and there's no requirement that the president has to go up and give a big speech where everybody applauds for him, and he points to a bunch of people in the crowd and gives awards out and just gets applause lines and speaks for literally, the length of almost felt like watching an Avatar movie, the length of that speech. But for me, that could be an email. You don't have to do that. And in fact, if I had been elected, maybe I would have done the first one, because be the first libertarian president to do that. But by the end of the 4 years, I'm sure I'd probably just be sending in a message via email and just let him read it there. But the truth is it was like it was and was not like most State of the Union speeches. It was long. It was pretty boring. And this one, even more than a lot of other ones, was very light on actual like substantive policy. It was a lot of on vibes, and really, I think it was about the worst speech in terms of tone that the president could have given, considering his situation and the situation his party is in as they head towards the midterms. Just putting on my political junkie helmet here. Just remember here, I'm a libertarian. I don't love either of the major parties, but just playing strategy here. It would seem that if you were the president and you were at historical low approval ratings, people have extreme uncertainty about the economy. They want to see the government tackling affordability and tackling inflation. And they're very, they were supportive of you a year ago on your immigration, according to polling, but now that's completely underwater. You might approach the State of the Union with a bit of humility and saying, I listen to the American people. I hear what you're saying, and here's how we're going to change course and I guess still make America great or whatever. And that would have been the tone you want to take. So that way, and also come out with some real positive policy initiatives that are popular among Americans, instead of what you've been doing the last year. Instead, Trump very much doubled down on the State of the Union. He did not come with any kind of humility or any kind of sense that he had done wrong in the last year and that the American people are getting sick and tired of what he's doing. In fact, doubled down on much of the stuff that America is very sick and tired of, including libertarians. And so to me, the speech was a huge failure. It was a failure to have your last major national audience, national news day that's all to yourself, and before they really start ramping up for the midterms, before these primaries start coming up, and the biggest one being in Texas tomorrow. And he kind of blew it. And that's not unusual for the president. He doesn't really think strategically like that, I don't think. So that's kind of how I feel about the State of the Union, in addition to disagreeing with so much of it. I really laughed when and this is something, by the way, if anybody tells you, like, with the government we have now, the size that it is and the amount it costs right now, that you're going to get rid of all of the income tax and make that up with tariff revenue, is laughable. Tariff revenue, even the high tariffs we're facing right now, is a drop in the bucket of the size and scope of government, how much it costs. If you really want to get rid of the income tax, the only thing you can do is slash government. Slash it so much that you don't need the income tax anymore, the revenue from it. But no Republican or Democrat will ever propose slashing government like that, because they profit off of government growth. They profit off of redistributing the wealth to their special interests and to those that pay attention to them and give them money and lobby to them. And so this is the truth. You're never going to get a smaller government. You're never going to get taxes truly lowered in a way that doesn't add trillions to the debt unless you cut government. And you're never going to cut government if you have Democrats or Republicans. So elect libertarians. Again, I'm just, playing my high horse here, but we need to slash all of those things. Other parts of the speech that were just laughable is, Trump being like, oh, well, you better stand up for this. You don't love this country. The whole, well, we serve the American people, not illegal aliens. The truth is the government works to serve all people under the boundaries of the Constitution. That should be really what they're serving first and foremost, is that they are acting within their constitutional bounds. And that really hasn't happened from the executive branch in a long time. And we really shouldn't expect it from Donald Trump. And anybody who did previous to last year's election, even without me warning everybody that this was going to be the case, you should have seen it coming. Why? Because we had 4 years of Trump already. We had 4 years of Trump where he increased drone bombings, where he blew up the debts and deficits, where he wasted taxpayer money on stupid projects, pet projects, and where he locked down the country in 2020. And yet so many seem to have forgotten that in 2024. And it's a shame. I wish more people had gotten to hear the message and voted libertarian. Honestly, I put out a platform that was pretty much straight ticket our platform, and tried to address it and get out in as many places as possible through a lot of factors that were both within and outside of the control of the Libertarian Party. That was a difficult time in 2024. You had an independent candidate with a huge name recognition who was collecting millions of dollars, who ultimately dropped out and endorsed Trump and now sits in his cabinet, Robert Kennedy, who took a lot of the air, the oxygen out of the room. And then you also had, internally, we had a Libertarian Party leadership who was really more interested in selling out to Donald Trump than supporting the Libertarian Party and its candidates, not just me, but candidates up and down the ticket. Uh, you know, that's a damn shame. And I'm going to fight to make sure that doesn't happen going forward anymore at the national level. Well, at the state level, I'm running for governor, and I'm going to continue to fight for smaller government here in the Peach State. I'm going to continue to fight to lower taxes here in the Peach State. And I want to continue to make it easier for people to work, create a business, and help out their neighbor without regulations and barriers. And that's really my goal in this race, is to put forward a policy proposal, a policy portfolio that should be attractive to each and every Georgia voter, whether they vote Libertarian normally or not. That really speaks to helping out our neighbor through voluntarism, through removing barriers, and then helping out ourselves through removing barriers of taxation and the regulation that it takes to start a small business, hire employees, and really make the economy hum here in Georgia. So I'm going to be fighting at that level, and I'm so proud that I get to represent Georgia as our gubernatorial candidate for the Libertarian Party. But nationally, the State of the Union is not strong. I feel like our economy is in peril due to this overspending, due to looming inflation, just due to these tariffs and the uncertainty that creates, and due to the fact that we have just complete unsteady leadership from our executive branch and a Congress led by Republicans who are doing everything they can to bury their heads in the sand and not to address the issues that are really pressing this country. And so, if I was to say, what is the state of our union? The state of our union is in peril. We are in peril due to overspending. We're in peril due to the abuse of people's inherent rights, violating due process, undue detention. So many things that this administration has been doing over the last year, and a Congress that completely negates their responsibility to stand up to this executive branch, is really putting our nation in peril, and in a way that, and I prefer divided government. I think that, honestly, as a libertarian, if you're not going to have a libertarian in charge, it's better to have, like, say, a Republican president and a Democrat Congress, or vice versa, so that way you have that check and balance, as opposed to this rubber stamp coward named Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House, who's a wet noodle, if that. And so, can't fight back against, can't call out his own members who have done terrible things, like Representative Gonzalez in Texas, who, drove one of his staff members to suicide through pesking or being a sex pest. Disgusting. Can't fight to release the Epstein files. In fact, the Republican Party is coming down against Thomas Massie for being the champion of that, despite that being a promise that every Republican had on their lips in 2024. Oh, we're going to release the Epstein files. And then as soon as it starts happening, as soon as powerful people start being threatened, you see the big party apparatus really start to push back. And so the state of our union is perilous. And I thought that was going to be the biggest news story, was just talking about the State of the Union this week. I thought we were just going to have a normal Trump BS. But it turns out that no, we now have a war in Iran going on. It seems we've not relearned the lessons of Iraq and of the war on terror. It seems the neocons were not defeated by MAGA within the GOP, that MAGA was really the neocons all along. And we could have warned you of this if you'd seen Trump's drone policy in his first term, if you'd heard his rhetoric ramping up in 2020 and even ramping up again once Biden was president. You could see that a war with Iran was coming. Hey, Tulsi Gabbard saw it in 2019. And now she's part of the very administration that's initiating these regime change wars that she herself ran against. Let this be a lesson that absolute power corrupts absolutely. That for just a taste of a seat at the table, so many people are willing to give up their principles. And some libertarians have been no different. And you know who you are. And we should call you out, continue to call you out. And that goes the same with these conservatives, or even Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democrat. Robert Kennedy was originally wanting to run as a Democrat, and now he is part of the very administration that is going back on so many of its promises, and with regards to Iran, is repeating the mistakes of past administrations. There is no exit strategy for this. We have no game plan for what comes next now that we in Israel have just bombed the shit out of Iran, killed their their head of state. Which, by the way, that's not just going to make everything crumble. They have a contingency plan. This idea that, oh, if we just take out the Ayatollah, everything's going to be great and the revolution will come. The truth is our bombing Iran is actually giving energy to the hardliners, and it's forcing those who would have normally been protesting and being and fighting against the state to actually have to like choose between the state or foreign governments bombing them, and it actually weakens protest movements. And so what this has done is actually probably set back legitimate protest in the country of Iran, um, uh, and is really backfiring. I'll be honest, that's what is liable to happen here. It's the same as we saw, we were going to be greeted as liberators in Iraq. We were told by the people who were pushing us into Iraq in the early 2000s that we'll be in and out in a year. We had the whole mission accomplished thing. I would not put it past Trump to have a mission accomplished style press conference or something in a few months, acting like this is all done, when really what it does is destabilize the whole region. We actually haven't heard from the president, really. We've had a couple of Truth Social posts about it and a couple of short form videos. We haven't had that real like Oval Office address talking about the consequences and the cost of war in like a real somber way. Like, I oppose all the past presidents doing these things, but they at least had the decency to like announce it and to talk about it. This seems to be trying to be like both touted as some sort of success, but also kind of swept under the rug. And it's a very weird thing. And by the way, this isn't just like the United States and Israel that's that's initiating this and is also in danger by this. There's also the Gulf states. This could spread to a wider regional conflict now that we've seen violence in Doha and Dubai and other places. We've seen these things, and so it's very sad to see. As somebody who opposed the war on terror and the war in Iraq in my youth, it really hurts at 40 to think about the fact that there are going to be young men and women, kids who are going to be sent into these war zones. And we've already seen service members lost. And Trump so callously, and Hegseth too, like, oh, well, that's just the cost of war. Tell that to their family. Tell that to their friends and their loved ones. That's just such a terrible way to address the real costs of war. And we don't see their kids going into war. I don't see Barron Trump suiting up and going to fight in the war zone. I don't see the children of Netanyahu or Mike Johnson's kids or any I don't see any of them going to fight this war. It's going to be young men and women who, for the most part, are fighting to get a college education, to get ahead in their lives. Many of the people who fight in these wars are the working class, the very people who get abused the most by the state, both domestically and in these wars, being sent to go fight in these wars. And it's a tragedy every time we lose a service member in one of these undeclared wars. Congress has not declared war. Congress has not provided oversight to this war. And again, this rubber stamp GOP Congress is just burying their heads in the sand. And so for me, it's truly disheartening to see. It is a tragedy, and it's, politically, in case you're worried about the midterms, some people are more worried about the midterms than the human cost of this thing, it seems like. But the truth is the Democrats are likely going to blow out the Republicans in the midterms because of this. Because an entire generation of millennials remembers the war in Iraq, remembers the war in Afghanistan, remembers what it cost us in blood and treasure. And so, I'm going to keep fighting to be a voice for peace and to call out Americans' foreign policy that is just going to cost us lives. And and it's something that you're not going to get out of the Republican or Democratic Party. Neither of them are a true anti-war party. The Libertarian Party is. And I encourage you to join your state affiliate wherever you're at. I encourage you to join the National Libertarian Party. And as we see this unfold, this war unfold, we have to think about the real human costs of it all. And those friends and families and loved ones who will, here at home, we're going to lose service members, but also the displaced and the killed and the innocents killed in Iran, in the Gulf states, in Israel, everywhere. Wherever these wars are causing innocents to die, it's a tragedy. And we initiated this conflict. We did. And I already see Hegseth and Trump trying to say, well, this was started by Iran. No. They've been at war with us since the 70s. Then why didn't Trump go to war with them the first term? The truth is this is about, I do believe a lot of this is two things. Trump wanting to distract from the midterms, wagging the dog a little bit. I do think that this is also, I also really feel like Trump is taking these actions because ultimately when he's not in power after this, I think he's going to make his bag in these Gulf states and in Israel through real estate development and other deals. And I think part of that has been his policy with regards to Gaza and Iran that are helping to make sure that he gets his when he's out of office. I really do think there's a financial incentive here. And if there isn't, after he's out of office, I will be the first to say I was proven wrong. But I bet you you're going to start seeing Trump towers in the Gulf states, and you're going to start seeing Trump's hands all over the demolition and rebuilding of whatever will be left of Gaza, all this stuff. And it's a damn shame. And I'm glad I got to be a candidate on the ballot in 2024 to loudly oppose these things and give people a choice in the ballot that was a true anti-war choice, despite some people who fell for the idea that Trump and Vance were the peace ticket. They were not. And I think it's been proven now that they were not. They are part of the very war machine that we should all be raging against. And I'm seeing some questions here. How would the war in Iran be worse than the Iraq war? I hope not. Can libertarians continue to be anti-war activists? Yes, of course we can continue to be anti-war activists. The war in Iran, they're a much larger population than Iraq. They have a much more organized military than Iraq. They have much more satellite groups in the region that can cause a lot of turmoil and join in the fight. And of course, they are friendly with Russia. So there's a lot of areas where this can actually be much more dangerous than Iraq. So tired of these wars in the desert. I agree. What do I think about the LNC finally taking action against Angela McArdle for embezzlement? Good. Sue her. She took money from the party. She should be sued. GOP has no balls. Breads. I think that means breeds. You're supposed to say breeds, but bread's weakness. I'll take bread's weakness. Barron Trump has heel spurs. Pray for his quick recovery. Trump said it would be over in 4 weeks. How do we help libertarians get on the ballot in Georgia? Good question, Joe. Good question. We help libertarians get on the ballot in Georgia by right now supporting the Libertarian Party, because we're going to have a ballot access drive. We need to get 78,000 signatures by the middle of July. And we need your help to do that. It cannot be done just on hopes and dreams and wishes. It happens with ballot access petitioners, and we need money to do that. Go to lpgeorgia.com/donate. You can tell them Chase sent you in the comments. Let them know that you want this for ballot access or you want this for filing fees for candidates. One of those two things will help us. Once we raise the money for filing fees for candidates, we can put that money towards ballot access. I encourage you to donate now to donate right now. And when you donate, put in the comments that Chase sent you here. Please do that so folks can know, and we can make a difference here and help not just me. I've already raised the money I need to get on the to qualify for the Secretary of State on Wednesday, but other candidates need your help. So please help us out if you can. So that was a great question there. Let me get back to comments here. Let's see. Did you guys get any snow in Georgia? I don't believe we did. I wasn't here though when the worst the weather was, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. What do you recommend college students do to promote libertarianism? First off, hang out with other students, have actual reasonable discussions, be normal. Don't be hostile to people who might disagree with you politically. Be actually welcoming to engage them and talk to them. And many times you can bring them over to your policies. If you're an engaging enough speaker, I recommend taking debate courses, Toastmasters, become a public speaker, and form your own student organizations. There are some liberty-minded student organizations, but I encourage you to form your own libertarian groups if there isn't one. I've actually decided to skip the primaries this year to affiliate with my state's Libertarian Party. I assume you're in Texas, Connor. And if you're in Texas, do not vote in the primaries. Again, if you're in Texas and you want to help the Libertarian Party or be part of the Libertarian Party, be a delegate to our national convention, do not vote in the primaries. Do not vote in the primaries if you want to be in part of the Texas Libertarian Party as a state delegate or national delegate or a county delegate. You need to attend your conventions. Texas state law is very weird. You cannot be part of the convention system for the Libertarian Party if you participate in a primary. So again, if you're in Texas, do not vote in the primaries unless you don't want to be part of the Libertarian Party in their convention process, and that includes being a national delegate to our national convention this May. So that's my little PSA. I will say that there is going to be a lot of people with their eyes on the Texas primary tomorrow. I expect the Republican race will probably go to a runoff. And the Democrats, I'll be honest, again, just putting on my political strategist helmet here, not really wanting either party to win. I'm voting for Ted Brown if I were a Texas voter. But I think if the Democrats were smart, their best chance to win a statewide race in Texas is by backing Tallarico and not Jasmine Crockett. But we'll see how it goes. How do you normally go about trying to convince people who are otherwise libertarian but want large social safety nets? Convince them that voluntarism and helping your neighbor out without government compulsion is actually better, that your dollars can go further by donating to organizations that it will actually help their neighbor directly, as opposed to washing it through the washing machine of taxation that will have, your dollar giving back a dime's worth of service. And you do have to make that case. And part of that is by living by example, by donating to charity and being active in your community to help your neighbors, to be the social safety net that you don't need a government one. You can do that private, voluntarily, and without the compulsion of the state. That is typically how I go about it, trying to live my own values by helping other people. Yep, go to your precinct and county LP at conventions. That's what you got to do in Texas. Don't vote in the primary. All right. Well, we're getting towards the end of this. I didn't see really any questions popping up in the comments, but you guys can throw any questions. Why do you prefer Ted Brown over Daniel Mark Sims? I don't know Daniel, honestly. I know Ted, and he's been a very hard worker. He's been a very good candidate in the past, and I just like him. This is not an official endorsement. If there's an open primary, I'm not trying to sway one people or another. You vote for the best libertarian. I honestly wasn't aware that there was a primary, if that's what this is. But I just know Ted personally. Don't know Daniel. Would love to talk to him. Love to meet him one day. That's not true for people like me who need healthcare. So I assume you're talking about the social safety net. And here's the thing: we can reduce the cost of healthcare by actually separating it from the overregulation from the state. And in fact, there's lots of ways we can reduce healthcare. In fact, removing patent evergreening of medications so we can get more generics online more quickly to actually way lower the cost of drugs for millions and millions of Americans in this country is one thing that I advocated for as a presidential candidate, an entire healthcare policy as well. And for those who are truly in need, those who are disabled, I recommend you check out Thomas Queter and his what he has to say about disability rights as a disability rights organizer. And he has a great, the Mobility Independence Foundation, I believe is the name of the group, if off the top of my head. But Thomas Queter is an amazing guy up in New York, who can talk about how, even the so-called healthcare social safety nets that are provided are a nightmare for a lot of Americans. Um, but yeah, I mean, I can agree to disagree though. Who would be my dream presidential candidate for 2028? Um, Me with I don't know, Beyonce. No, I'm just kidding. I don't really know. Don't really know who my dream candidate. Somebody who really fights for our platform and has the ability to bring money to the table, and can be a messenger that is attractive to the average voter. We don't just need to be able to preach the libertarian choir. We need somebody who can preach outward. Um, I wish I had gotten more opportunities to do that in 2024. Again, a lot of factors, both internal and external. The Libertarian Party made that a lot harder than it had been in the past. I'm still very proud of the almost 700,000 votes I earned, um, being the standard bearer in 2024. But ideally in 2028, it would be somebody who can do all of those things even better. And maybe I run again. I don't think it's going to be in 2028, but never say never, right? So maybe my dream candidate's me, but who knows? Um, I would love to have you come back to Maine and speak at an event if you can pull it off. I'll send you an email. Yeah, send an email. You can send it to chase.oliver@votechaseoliver.com, or info@votechaseoliver.com. Either way, it'll get to me. Shoot me an email there. That's my old website. I'll have a new website eventually, but that's where you can still reach me. Would love to come up to Maine if it's possible. Depends on the timing, honestly. Went up there a few times. It was great. Had my first lobster roll of the campaign season while I was up in Maine. Let's see. Who are the libertarian nominees in the state of Ohio? Oh my goodness, there's more than I could count right now. They have, I think, over 40 candidates running all over the state of Ohio. I would recommend, one off the top of my head is Zach Hall. He is somebody who was a huge supporter of my campaign back in Ohio in 2024, and he is now running. I would recommend him, but there's a whole lot of others who are really awesome in Ohio. I recommend you guys connect with LP Ohio, the Libertarian Party of Ohio out there, and support the over 40 candidates they have running, which is awesome. And congrats to the Libertarian Party of Ohio for running so many candidates. And I know some of them are just really stellar folks out there. Let's see. Kind of a random question, but what kind of things do you think farmers should be looking for from libertarian candidates? Tariffs would be a good start, but perhaps also tackling big ag. Yeah, one of the things that I fought against is um, the fact that we subsidize, especially big agriculture, so much. I would start to remove those subsidies and let people grow what they want to grow instead of forcing farmers to grow the crops that the government wants them to grow. And that's many times the only way many farmers can make a living right now. The other thing that I would do is fight back against things like eminent domain. It was a huge issue in the state of Iowa, where a lot of farmers were having their land seized to build carbon sequestration pipelines through their land without their permission. I think that's a huge issue in that region, particularly up through Iowa and into South Dakota. I think we can support the idea of sustainable farming and the fact that so much of big agriculture has a real damage to the local environment. And we need to look at citizen restitution and civil restitution for those kinds of things to create incentive, an incentive for people to not pollute their neighborhoods. There's a lot of things that we can do to help the farmers, and of course, reducing the cost of government overall, so we can reduce the taxation that farmers face. We can remove barriers to inheritance that cost, particularly these family farms that may not be like the giant agri farms, but mid-sized family farms that have to pay to pass these things along to their next generation. We can also fight back against these horrible immigration policies that are frankly robbing many farms of the labor pool that they need to keep them successful, to keep them from having crops dying in the field. So there's a whole plethora of things we can do to help farmers. But a lot of that just revolves around good libertarian policy and supporting things like property rights and fighting back against government overreach there. Have I ever thought about adding the ability to super chat? Isn't that where you have to like pay to do that? I try not to like. I mean, I don't know how to monetize this and really what the rules are, but for me, I don't know. Um, let's see. Bill Redpath for U.S. Senate. Tom Protector. Say I see some of these names dropping in here who are candidates. Well, I'm going to kind of just go ahead and kind of. We're getting a little over 30 minutes into the stream. I'm going to kind of cut it off soon, but I did want to talk about just non-political here, recent and upcoming travel. I will be qualifying at the Secretary of State's office on Wednesday, but on Thursday, I'm actually flying out to go to Anime Milwaukee, which is a convention up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So if you're a libertarian and or an anime fan in the Milwaukee area, come out and see me. I will be helping my boyfriend, who's a very talented cosplayer and MC at a lot of these events. Look forward to being there. And then recently, I just got back from a couple of awesome trips that I would highly recommend to anybody. I got to do my first cruise a little while ago. It was through my work, honestly. My work retreat was on a cruise ship, which shout out to whoever made that an idea. And I got to do a Virgin cruise through Mexico, their little island of the Bahamas, and then back. It was from Miami and back and around. It was a 5-day thing. And I got to say, man, I've not been on any other cruise lines before, but shout out to Virgin because they do it pretty awesome. First off, no kids, which I think, if you're a family, doesn't really work for you. But for me, as someone who does not have kids, it was really nice to be on a trip with nobody there or with no kids there. It was awesome. And then the other trip that I just recently got back from is from Universal Studios, which is where I got this sweet monster hoodie, you guys. Got to go on a lovely birthday trip with the boyfriend. And the reason why I bring this up is because, while I talk about politics all the time, and there are certainly things that can bring you down, like the State of the Union right now is pretty crazy. The economy is pretty crazy. Us going to war is pretty crazy. But at the end of the day, we also have to remember that we have to take time for levity and times for ourselves and our friends and our family and our loved ones, because otherwise this whole political thing will drive you crazy. And so in addition to this, I believe I'm also going to be going to the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania's state convention coming up, as well as the national convention in Grand Rapids in May. So I'm looking forward to doing both some leisure travel as well as some political travel over the next few months. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the road. So if you're going to be in Milwaukee this weekend and you're a fan of anime, come to the anime convention. Try to spot me. I will be in costume at least a couple of the days, so it might be harder to spot me than you think. But come out and say hello. And in the meantime, keep fighting for liberty in your neighborhood and with your community. Keep finding ways to make your life more free. Keep finding ways to help those in need that doesn't involve the state. And keep supporting the idea that we own ourselves, we own our lives, we own our property, and not government. And that if government is to exist, it exists to serve us and not the other way around. And by that, protecting our inherent human rights that each and every person has. And so I'm going to keep pushing that message forward as a candidate for governor. I'm qualifying on Wednesday, and then we have a very, very busy ballot access petitioning season up through July, and we're going to need everyone's help to get that done. And again, if you want to help us out, go to lpgeorgia.com/donate. lpgeorgia.com/donate is where you want to go if you want to donate to the Libertarian Party of Georgia. In the comments section, tell them Chase sent you, so that way they know. I've raised the fees that I need for my race. We do have a few other candidates who are needing to raise money for filing fees. So if you want to say Chase sent me here for filing fees or Chase sent me here for ballot access, we'll make sure that the Libertarian Party of Georgia puts those funds to good use to support our candidates. But that's it for me. Next live stream, I'll probably have news of our website coming up, how you can donate directly to the campaign, and what we're going to be doing to get those petitions signed. If you also want to help out and volunteer with Libertarian Party of Georgia, Go to lpgeorgia.com and click to volunteer and say you want to help us with our ballot access petitioning. We could use your help. We could use your donations. I hope each and every one of you who's watching out there has a life of peace, love, and liberty. And I'll talk to you soon.